Oh, this?
Paper? Yes.
Okay.
Got one for you.
But I have a picture though.
I know this was gonna be.
Okay, take a look. Okay, thanks a lot.
Oh, yeah, you think, oh, I was thinking first.
Yes. I have my own company.
You asked me to talk about
Fullerton College.
Yeah, I said I would.
Yeah, I remember.
Take some pictures.
You didn't recognize me because I had.
Yeah. Sir? So my name is Kendrick Kim. I'm a local realtor in Orange County, and I'm also teacher at Cerritos College, Glendale College, Fullerton College, pretty much a wide range of community colleges. And today we're going to talk about, from a consumer point of view, property management do's and don'ts, right? And some of the things, my information and phone number is here too if you need to contact me later. But I will be here after the presentation. You could talk outside or around this area. Okay. Some of the things I'm going to go over first is, why would you use a property manager as a consumer, right? Well, you take away a lot of the liability from you, the consumer. How's that? There's a lot of things going on in property management. You have to know the rules and regulations, the law, when to give notice of entry, how many days do you need to give back the security deposit, right? Rent collection, right? What happens if they don't pay the rent?
3 days to pay or quit.
3 days notice to pay or quit. Does consumers know this? Maybe if they Google, right? If they Google property management do's and don'ts and things like that. But we take away that liability and the emotional stress from being a property manager. Why? You guys have to be on call almost 24 hours a day. Why is that? Well, what if there's a plumbing issue with the tenants? Right? Are you going to say, well, we'll fix it like tomorrow, when the plumbing issue is happening now, currently, and there's overflow of water? You're going to tell them, oh, just wait. We'll wait till tomorrow. No, you're going to probably have to have people on staff, like a plumber, right? Or some sort of electrician if the electrical stuff goes out. Property managers have a resource in terms of what type of affiliates that they need. A plumber, electrician, gardener, all of that stuff, because they have to maintain the property on your behalf. And they'll deal with all the headaches and stress. Now, in the document, I also gave you some legal websites. If you choose not to use a property manager and you choose to do it yourself, these legal websites on the back would help you with the resources in terms of, finding resources like a lease contract, right? Landlord-tenant law, things like that. In California, what you must know as consumers is that we're more of a tenant-friendly state. So if you go to court as an owner or even a property manager, you need to prove up your case that you're in the right and the tenant was in the wrong. And that's a lot of time and stress and money away from you, right? Some of you have jobs, 9 to 5. Can you guys go to court on a certain day in the morning or the afternoon and leave your job? What if you're in the middle of your job and you get a call about plumbing issues or someone broke in or this and that, right? Can you leave your job to do that? That's where the property manager comes in, okay? If you choose not to use a property manager and you choose to do it yourself, on the back, there's a bunch of resources, legal aid, OC housing, legal info about the laws of property management, okay? Someone said 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. That's something that you always have to post if someone doesn't pay rent. Let's say your contract says their payment of the rent is due on the 5th of each month, no later than the 10th, right? What happens after the 10th? The 11th, 12th, and 13th, no rent yet, so probably by the 14th, you're gonna probably put that 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. Where do you put it?
On the front door.
On the front door where it's visible.
Tape it.
Tape it, take a picture that you did that. Why? Because it's evidence for you when you have to go to court. What do you have to file in court? something called an unlawful detainer, right? It's a civil suit. Unlawful detainer. You go to court, you file unlawful detainer, they have the 30 days to respond, the tenants. So sometimes up to like 3 months, 4 months, the tenants in there are living free because they're not paying rent. And all that court cost and time you have to deal with. That's why with the property manager, they could take away all that headache from you. But if you choose to do it yourself, yes, you can save money, but can you save time? How many of you own property? Okay. Do you manage the property yourself? Yes? Tell me what is that like, ma'am?
It's stressful the first time you have to do everything.
Yes.
But once you kind of get a rhythm and system going, it's not as scary.
It's not as scary. It's still annoying though, right? See, as a owner, investor of your homes, you're sort of also like a psychologist, am I correct? Why? Because you have to listen to a lot of these tenants' issues. Whether you believe them or not, you have to somewhat be empathetic, correct? That's something you must do. You can't be mean and say everything that they say, oh, that's BS, I don't believe you, and treat them wrong. Why? Because if they feel slighted, are they going to pay you rent on time? Or feel obligated to pay you rent on time? Probably not. Probably want to give you a hard time and wait till the last minute. If you have that contract saying it's due on the 5th, no later than the 10th, they'll probably wait till the 10th just to give you a hard time when you expect it on the 5th, correct? So you guys, as consumers, when you're property managers, you must be empathetic to these tenants. But it comes with a lot of headaches, correct? Yeah. Who else raised their hand for, yes ma'am?
I only own properties in states that are friendly to me as a landlord. I do not own any in California. I own property in California, but none that I rent out. But I was thinking about renting out my house and moving to the beach, but I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, in California, like I said, we are a tenant-friendly state. So you're the bad guy as the homeowner or the property manager. Okay. Who else owns property?
I do.
Yes.
I've done it both ways. I'll be honest, property management is the best way to go. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
I've done it the other way. I've managed lots of properties. I've done all the things you're talking about, and it's stressful.
It is. Did you know you have to give the tenants 24 to 48 hour notice of entry? You can't, as a property manager or owner, just say, well, because this is my house, I have a right to just enter whenever I feel like it. That's wrong. You can't do that. And the way I do it is I give them 24 to 48 hour notice via text message, via email, and a voicemail call. Why do I do it 3 times duplicate? Because to protect myself. So if they deny that, I never received a voicemail, I never received a text, but you got the email because it didn't bounce back. So you have evidence. So when you go to court, you can print out that email, say, I sent this email, there was no bounce back, he never replied. I also saved my text in an email file, and I gave him plenty of notice, 3 ways, right? There's no way to deny that. What else can you not do as a property manager? What do you guys think?
You can't not fix something that's broken.
Yes. The tenants have the right to pay their own way to fix that problem, and if they put it in writing saying, I'm deducting this amount from my rent, and they have a legal right to do so if you don't fix the problem in a timely manner. You as homeowners that rent out properties as investors, you guys have to know the liability of this. You can't all of a sudden, well, they didn't pay rent, so I'm going to shut off their air conditioner and gas and shower and things like that. You can't do that. I've seen some people actually do that, and I thought, you can't do that. There's a lot of legal liability, right? What you want to do is give them notice and let them know that, hey, look, if this is a problem, I will have my handyman fix this. It's good to have a handyman as a resource, right, to fix little things here and there. But one of the things that you want to do is have a good, solid lease contract between the tenant and yourself, right? State everything in your brain, what you want from that contract, in detail. It could be 5 pages of your detail. That's fine. It's protecting you. They could deny it and say, well, it wasn't in the contract, but we had a verbal agreement. That means nothing. You have to have everything in writing. For example, the date of move-in is January 14th, 2017. Your lease is up January 15th, 2018. Rent is due on the 5th of each month. You have a 5-day grace period until the 10th to pay that rent before you charge a late fee, right? You could charge 10% late fee on top of $1,500 rent, right? That's what I usually do in the contracts. So they can't say, well, I didn't know, right? What else do you want to put in the contract? You probably also want to put what they can and cannot do on the property. You want to specify no marijuana, unless it's medicinal purposes, okay? And it's valid medicinal purposes, like you could verify that, okay? And some cities, like Santa Monica, even when you rent out property, you have to put no smoking within that property. Why? Because Santa Monica cites homeowners who smoke within their property, even if it's in their backyard. That's one of the rules in Santa Monica. So you might want to know the city rules and regulations of where your property is at, so you could draw up that contract accordingly, right? How many of you, what else do you think that you guys should put in the contract, like a lease contract? Let's give the consumers a chance. You guys are all realtors?
No.
Who's a consumer?
Who's not a realtor?
Who's not a realtor? Okay, all right. Let's go with you, the property owner here. What else would you put in a contract?
You put when the rent is due,
Yes.
rules as far as hanging signs and the way you can alter the property.
Okay.
Or you could decide to leave it. Parking, sometimes it's separate.
And pets, right? Wouldn't you want to put pets?
Yeah.
If you have a townhome, some of the homeowners associations don't allow certain types of dogs, like the breeds, right? The most popular one that they ban is the pit bulls, right? So if you have a tenant who has a pit bull, but they got good solid credit, you can't rent to them because your homeowners association at a townhome or a condo won't allow that, correct?
Or your insurance.
Homeowners insurance, yeah, if you own a regular family home, homeowners insurance, sometimes depending on the type of breed, your premium, let's say it was at $1,200, could double, increase a lot based on the breed of dog that you have. That's something to look at, okay? What else would you put aside from pets? I'm asking you, Mel, yeah.
Who pays utilities? Yeah, parking.
Who pays utilities? Okay. Number of tenants. Let's say these 5 individuals right here want to rent the property from you. How would you draw up that contract? Yes, each one would have to sign the lease, right? Each one not only has to sign the lease, but each one has to acknowledge that this is when the rent's due. The utilities should be under whoever's name. You don't care as long as the utilities is not under my name, right? You want to make sure that when these 5 individuals rent from you, sometimes you might want to check by giving a notice of entry, right? Letting them know that, hey, I'm going to visit you on January 18th, a couple days from now, however you want to do it with your schedule. And when you come in, you probably want to observe things, see if everything's working. But at the same time, you want to observe, okay, who's living here, right? Because this gentleman over here might have sneaked in 2 other individuals as their cousins living in that one room, right? So you want access to look around to see, oh, I just wanted to see if everything's working order, carpets are clean, that's all, right? But in actuality, you're making sure that it's these 5 individuals and not the added 2 that's not on the contract. I've had that happen to me, that's why I know. Okay? What else do you think? Yes, ma'am. Subleasing. Subleasing. Will you allow subleasing in your contract? Well, it should be stated whether you will or will not. right? Would you have a contract for rooms? Like all of a sudden, Mr. Chen over here, he's one of my former students, and he says, I'm gonna rent the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house from you. And I said, okay, he's the only one on the list, but he's only one person, and he decides, well, I'm gonna rent out the other 2 rooms so I could get some sort of profit for myself. Will you allow that in the contract? Maybe that's something that you want to put under a section of the contract for subleasing, if you would allow that or not, right? That's very important. Now, where do you get these contracts and information about do's and don'ts? Well, these websites right here, legalinfo.ca, the OC courts, all that information about court procedure. Court procedures are very important for you to understand as consumers because it's complicated. How much does an attorney cost? Anywhere from $150 an hour to like $800 an hour, right? And if you hire an attorney to file all the process of the court paperwork and whatnot, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But if you could do it yourself or hire a property manager to do it, that alleviates a lot of the stress from you, right? I'm not saying use me as a property manager. My thing is, if you could do it yourself, do it. Use these resources, right? Sometimes the attorneys think that they have all the knowledge. Sorry, Mr. Chen. But if you could Google anything now, you could probably Google information about this in court procedure. Now, depending on where you're located, like example, if your property is in Downey Court and you have another property in Orange County, where you file at those 2 different courts have different rules and procedures that you must follow. For example, in Downey, when you file an unlawful detainer, on the top of this page right here, 2-page whole stamp. And if you don't do it, they don't accept your filing for an unlawful detainer. Laguna Hills area, they'll say, oh, you forgot to stamp this right here, 2-hole punch, we'll do it for you. So it really depends on the court clerk and their mood that day, to be honest, right? Okay, think about it. Also, the leasing contracts as a consumer, you guys could go Google NOLO Legal Series. The NOLO Legal Series. Those are a bunch of legal books with CDs, and they have forms inside that you guys could utilize for contracts such as leases or whatever contracts you want to draw up with, right? And I don't think I have this website on here, but if you Google it, it'll show you a bunch of legal books. Now, where can you buy these books? You could buy it at your local Barnes & Nobles, right? And they have different topics such as contracts, landlord-tenant law, and different information and forms for you on that CD. I don't think they have CDs anymore. I think they actually have a code where you could go to the website and download these forms. So you do not necessarily have to use a property manager or a realtor if you do this yourself, okay? But I would highly utilize that if time is an inconvenience for you. Because if you're working and you have too many properties and you can't pay enough attention to each one, then you probably want to utilize a property manager for that. Because they also make sure that your rent collection is on time. Any late fees within that contract, right? They'll collect it for you. They are your, I guess, your bill collector, right? Your go-to guy to collect all the money as much as they can, including all the late fees that they may have incurred. Now, here's one tip I think you as consumers should notice. If you have tenants, and for the past 6 months, they've been paying the rent late, plus that late fee that you put in the contract, it's time to maybe let them go, right? Why? Because it's a pattern. If they're paying rent and they're always paying the late fees for 6 months straight, then you know they're going to be in trouble sooner or later. Don't wait and all of a sudden they can't pay the rent. Just kick them out if they're not in a contract with you, right? Let's say, ma'am, what's your name in the green jacket?
My name?
Yeah.
Another money on
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I added green on too.
Was-
Keely.
I'm sorry?
Keely?
Keely?
Yes.
Okay, Keely doesn't have a rental agreement with, sir, what's your name? Dan. And he's been basically renting out your property month to month. But you've noticed that within 6 months period of his month-to-month rental from you, he's been paying the late fee he's been paying the rent late. If you don't have a contract with him, on June of 2017, let's say, give him 30 days notice to move out by July. That is your right because there's no binding lease contract with him. Because in your mind, you're gonna think, he's in trouble. There's no way, I understand he's paying rent late, I understand he's paying the late fee, but something's wrong here. It's consistent. So that is your thought that maybe you should, okay, I'm gonna put in a new tenant that's a little more stable, correct? Yeah, you're thinking, yeah, I'm getting late fees too, great. But what if he can't pay in July? Then you're not prepared. You have to go through the process of evicting this gentleman from your property, right? Someone had their hand up. I'm sorry, from my right eye. Yes? Okay. So, is there any questions or scenarios that you'd like me to talk about?
Is there injuries on the property considered, like injuries on the properties or not?
You want to probably have them get rental insurance.
What was the question?
Injury. If the tenant has an injury on the property and it's your property, you might be wise to say, hey, I know you're a tenant, but I need you to get renter's insurance to cover any loss.
But it's not obligatory.
You can't make them. You can't make them. But you could say, I would highly recommend.
But what if happens? You broke leg and say, hey, it's your steep driveway.
Well, if anything happens in California, what's the first thought that people do? Sue. We're a sue-happy state, right? How many of you know about that McDonald's case? Right? Several McDonald's cases, right? Someone burned themselves, and I'm suing you for $1 million because I burned a coffee in my leg area. Or another McDonald's case, I'm suing you because you made me fat. And I thought that was very interesting because you're the one that ate the McDonald's all this time. But in California, that happens, correct? So who's to say that if a tenant injures himself on your property, even though he's renting from you, they're not going to sue you? They probably will, most likely, because everyone, maybe this is just my thing, everyone's looking for a payday, the easy way somehow, right? So how do you protect yourself? Your homeowner's insurance will protect you, and also you might want to ask them, as a push for the optional, you need renter's insurance to cover any damages or loss that you incur on my property, right? Some property management firms make it a mandatory for the tenants, and that's usually the big corporations because they got legal loopholes to require that. But since you guys are just regular consumers and not with big property managers, maybe you want to drop that contract within that lease agreement, right? Saying, if you injure yourself, you release all liability from me. And if they sign that contract, that is a contract that's binding. Correct? Anybody else have some scenarios that they maybe want to discuss? Yes?
So if you have hired a property management company and you're in an eviction situation, if the property management company fills out the form wrong, forgets the whole time, whatever, you have to refile, your case is delayed, and you lose the case because of something that the property management company did.
Yeah.
Where is the, like, is that between
The-
the owner and the property management?
The property management company that you hire will lay out all the things in a contract for a property management agreement of what they're responsible for.
So it
and
could be money.
What happens if they make a mistake, then how much they will pay you or how much they will compensate you for that loss. Everything should be spelled out in that property management agreement. Because they're not gonna just draw up any willy contract. They probably have their contracts set up for the consumer. And the fees involved with the property management can range from 6%, 3% to 10%, right? And honestly, service is what you pay what you get for, right? So you want to make sure that this property management company that you've hired is well knowledgeable and well staffed. If you have 100 properties, you don't want a small mom and pop property management firm. You want the big ones to manage all those 100 properties that you have around the state or whatever. But if you're like 5 properties, you want to investigate that property management. Most likely they have a real estate license. So go to the website for the BRE, Bureau of Real Estate, and check their license. Check their Yelp reviews, ask friends if they know these individuals, right? And look at the forms and the property management agreements that they have and ask about their service and look at their website, right? Now, Yelp reviews, they might not be 100% accurate because everyone loves to write Yelp reviews. Sometimes it's uncalled for, correct? So you may want to ask the testimonials that they have put out, right, of past clients. Maybe find them or search for their email or something, right? But a property management, if they mess up, you as a consumer could collect any damages.
But you've already figured that out before you even hired.
You should be figuring out. You should do your research. It's like shopping for that perfect iPhone 7, whatever. You want to see the options, the gigabytes, and everything. Same with the property management firm. You want to see what they're offering in service, their specialty, what kind of teams they have, right? And aside from just looking at what is the fee I have to pay, you want to look at the service and the skill. Some of them have their social media accounts all up and running, right? You might want to just check through all of them, search them. Anybody else had a scenario that they wanted to? Yes, ma'am.
What about in deciding how to raise the rent? So if you have a condo situation and then your homeowners association fees go up.
That's a good question.
and
That's a good
deciding
question.
When you sell, when you know.
For example, when you want to raise the rent, let's say Amber here is renting property from me, and after 1 year she decides I'm going to move out because I'm buying a house. So I take in, what's your name now?
Olga?
I take in Olga as a new tenant. That's when I can raise the rent. Because a new tenant, anytime a new tenant moves into the vacant property, you could raise the rent from $1,200 to $1,500. Be reasonable, right? And what's the justification for renting rent? Well, you could look at little data sets like the economy. If the economy is going well, if everything's happy and go lucky, then you look at that. That's what property managers do. But at the same time, the consumer price index, that's what they look at specifically. So you can find it in the newspaper and look at the CPI, consumer price index, and if it's high, going up, then you could raise the rent, right? But what I do is if Amber moved out after that 1 year lease contract is up, and a new tenant comes in, Olga, if she was paying $1,200, I raise it to $1,500 max. That's what I do, just a pattern. That's just been my luck, $300 each time, right? But when do I give Amber her security deposit? I have to itemize the list. Like if the carpet is messy, like coffee stains and it wasn't there before, then yeah, I could deduct that for carpet cleaning. But if the carpet is just old wear and tear, you can't deduct the rent for that. But you have to itemize that list. Let's say Amber accidentally put a hole in the wall, never fixed it. She covered up with a poster. And when she moves out, I see this hole in the wall. Can I deduct her security deposit from that? Yes. As long as I show a receipt of all the work that's been done and itemize the cost. It's a good idea for consumers when Amber moves out, let's say, and you have this home, I would do an inspection, right? In terms of looking for when she moved out versus when she moved in. You have a picture portfolio of that. What I do is, I put a picture portfolio of when I moved in. This is what the property looked like. And then when someone moves out, I compare it. So I have an idea. I think as consumers, if you do that, you could save a lot of time of bickering and fighting. Well, you have the picture of what it looked like when you moved in, and this is what it looks like now. Okay? I'm sorry I went 5 minutes over. I know you guys got other classes to go to. If you need to see me or talk to me, my information is on there. And at the same time, I'll be outside to answer any more questions. Okay? Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
A quick question. It's like you said, no contract with the tenant. Doesn't it expire the contract or just no contract?
Sorry?
Like you said, no contract with the tenant?
Like, let's say
Possible,
you
it's
have
expired
a
contract,
you have a 1-year contract and
yes.
expired,
Yes.
and he's still living in there.
Uh-huh.
It's a month-to-month automatically.
Automatically month
If
to
you're
month.
still taking that check and depositing it, it's still month to month.
Okay, it's still, it means still a contract at least, it's still on a contract.
But it's once a month. But then, how do you raise the rent on your rent? How do you?
Yes.